Hello Prajwal,
Hello.
welcome back to yet another episode of History Phrase. Today we are going to talk about Russian Revolution, right?
Yes.
Okay. So Russia being what I know one of the biggest country in the world, and it has also been involved in all the geopolitical, economical. World War One, World War Two has been an important part, and also for the Cold War. But Russian Revolution goes back, way back, even before all these events that I spoke about. So can you give us a brief about what conspired Russian Revolution and what were the sequence of events that happened?
So first we get to 1905 when a priest called Father Gapon was leading some protesters into a peaceful march over the Winter Palace to stop the famine that was occurring in Ukraine. So he led this peaceful protest, and he was shot along with his main followers. So
He was a peasant,
he was a church father.
church father.
So he, along with some peasants, had marched upon the Winter Palace, and the Tsar was not inside the Winter Palace. He was somewhere else. But the general at the gates of the palace ordered the troops to open fire when the protesters approached.
Mhm. But why did he in the first place attack the Tsar?
He did not attack the Tsar, he was leading a peaceful protest and wanted to talk to the Tsar.
Okay, so it wasn't it was the protest was non-violent or a peaceful protest. What was the background? Why did he want to do so?
He wanted to do so to stop the famine occurring in Ukraine, which was killing millions of people.
Okay, so he was from Ukraine.
Hmm.
Okay.
It was so peaceful that Lenin and the Bolshevik party disregarded it. And Lenin stated that such peaceful protests could never win the revolution.
By that time, was Lenin the president of Russia?
Lenin, no, he was simply a revolutionary.
He was simply a revolutionary. So he was the one who was supporting this non-violent protest.
He was supporting violent protests.
He was supporting violent protest. Okay. And then what happened after that?
And then Russia found itself in a global conflict.
What was that? Please
World
explain.
War One.
Okay.
In World War One, Russian troops marched on German borders,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of fighting took place in which the Russians, who had a huge standing army but logistics issues and supply issues in the army, were highly demoralized and were a large failure in the most part of the war. So the offensives planned by the Russian army were combined with the artillery barrages that were sent on the Germans, but the state of the Russian army was so poor that in some offensives there was no artillery barrage because they could not give the shells to the artillery crews.
So Russia being such a big kingdom, such a rich kingdom, still militarily they were weak.
Because of logistics and supplies issues, the Russian Empire was not industrial as was the German. Germany had a lesser population, but yet they were militarily more advanced because of a phase of industrialization and arms race, which had rivaled that of the British.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, despite the fact that the British were those who started industrialization.
Okay. World War One, Russia was on the winning side.
Hmm.
So how did this revolution happen?
So when Russia was on the winning side, even so it had lost a huge amount of territory. So to back out in the
Russia
middle
had
of
lost territory. To whom?
to Germany.
But
And
Germany
to
was on the
Austria.
losing side.
Yes, but Russia backed out early, so it did not get any any of this territory.
Lost territory.
Mm.
Okay.
So these territories were composed into their own countries,
Mhm.
and they were not given to Germany because Germany was the cause of the war.
Mhm.
They were not given to Austria-Hungary because there was no Austria-Hungary after this. So they were divided into independent countries. So when Russia was backing out of the war in 1917, Lenin hoped that Russia would lose the war because even though the Russian economy was Russian economy, he wanted it to boom, not like this, not with the Tsar under it.
So he wanted Russia to lose because then Tsar will lose his face and then his revolution will have more backing, you meant to say.
Because when you are an autocrat like the Tsar,
Mhm.
if any major war occurs and you lose it, then all the blame is on you.
Okay.
There is nobody else to point to.
Okay. So what was then the sequence of events then?
Then Russia loses the war, and after that, there is a lot of chaos when the Russian autocracy is abolished and
By
abolished by the Mensheviks because the Bolsheviks are in a minority.
just for viewers, what does Mensheviks mean and what does Bolsheviks mean?
Menshevik literally means majority
Okay.
because these were the people who were in majority of the empire
Okay.
in the empire because these were people who favored open participation in their party, so they would take anybody in the party. They were democratic,
Mhm.
and the Bolsheviks on the other hand were a closed party only for workers.
Mhm.
Their literal name means minority.
Mhm.
So, but Lenin would call the Mensheviks the minority and the Bolsheviks the majority
Why so?
because he was highly disagreeable, and when any disagreement occurred, he would send all the Mensheviks out of the room. And when all the Mensheviks would be out of the room, he would only get some cronies, and these cronies would always say yes to what he said. So he would proclaim that they were in majority.
Mhm. Okay.
So the minority was always in majority, and majority was always in minority.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so then what happened? How did Bolsheviks?
Then there was a Russian civil war in which the whites were the Mensheviks and the reds were the Bolsheviks. So basically, the Menshevik government, when it won elections, it won the Social Revolutionary Party was the main Menshevik party. It won the elections. Once it won, the prime minister became Kerensky.
Who was the prime minister? Kerensky. Okay.
Kerensky wanted the war to progress
Hmm.
rather than end. Unlike most of the Russian people who wanted this war to finally end.
Hmm.
Because what happens is if you are a prime minister and you win a war,
Hmm.
then public sentiment goes high.
Yes. So he wanted to gain public sentiment so that he can still stick around to his chair. Okay.
So he wanted to win the war
Mhm.
and he launched one offensive and he lost.
What was that?
Kerensky offensive. It was a big failure and it drained the resources of an already bleeding Russia.
Mhm.
So it drained the coffers dry and he was thrown out of power.
Okay.
And then there was a Russian civil war between the Reds and the Whites because the provisional government as established by Kerensky had blown away its power, and the Reds wanted to take control now.
Okay. When you say whites, it means Mensheviks. When you say red, it means Bolsheviks. Any reason why this color has red and white? What exactly this color mean?
Because red was the color of the Communist Party
Okay.
and white was the color of the Social Revolutionaries.
that's the reason why red is a very important color in communism. So when you talk about communism, red color always is in your mind. Okay. So Bolsheviks.
So the Bolsheviks took control of a small region, but this region was more developed and more industrial,
Mhm,
whereas the whites took control of the eastern part of Russia,
mhm,
the Siberian part, which was very vast and underdeveloped. So, in a country like Russia, where industrialization had not progressed yet, and there was not even a railway yet, this underdeveloped small region which the Reds controlled proved to be better than the vast and underdeveloped region which the Whites controlled.
what does that mean? They became more rich, or
They defeated the Whites and they gained power.
okay, in terms of power, they were good. Okay, and then
So then the
was this the starting of revolution?
hmm,
Okay,
this was the end.
this was the end of revolution. So the
Then
starting was when there was a peaceful march in front of Tsar to protest against the Ukraine famine, and then the World War broke. World War One broke, and the Bolsheviks wanted Russia to be defeated, because then you see the Tsar and the
Tsar
administration
overthrew.
is on the weaker side. The prime minister, he lost because of his poor strategy, and then Bolsheviks slowly started taking control over the proceedings.
Usually it is said that the Bolshevik control was highly bloody, but it was not so. The Bolsheviks just went to public buildings, and they took control by raising their flag. So usually there was not a lot of violence, and they just took control.
Mhm.
So after this, they were in power, and Lenin became the leader of the party, and he basically wanted to conduct elections after this. The first purely democratic election that Russia would have, and the Bolsheviks lost. The social revolutionaries won again, and Lenin said that those don't count, and he dismissed them.
Okay, so he lost. He lost the election. Mhm.
So he dismissed the election, and he just decided to establish the party.
Okay, and then
Then there was the
but this meant that the complete public support, the support from the people was not with Lenin and his team.
they were still in the
Minority, second position. Mhm.
Even though their popularity had grown, it had not grown that much.
And what was the last phase of revolution? What happened at the last end? How did it end?
It ended when Lenin started having strokes because of heart failure.
Okay, that is after he won the election, he became the president.
Hmm.
Okay, can you come back and tell us? Okay, they lost. Bolsheviks lost.
So all of this was too much stress for Lenin, and he started having strokes. And when he was having strokes, Stalin would use his position as secretary to put people in power, people whom he liked.
But they were not ruling, right?
They were ruling.
Okay, coming back to the earlier statement which you made, during the elections they were in the second place, and after again there was a re-election.
No, he just decided to rule by ruling, not by
Oh, you meant
governing.
to say they lost, but still he took over. I mean, he grabbed the power. Oh, that's interesting to know.
So
What was the reaction of people? They accepted it.
yeah, because the Reds were in power, and nobody really cared that much now, because there were other problems to deal with, like the famine in Ukraine, and the fact that there were soldiers' revolts all over, and the economy was down, and workers were protesting. The fishing industry, the whaling industry, they were having certain strikes.
So, what was the reaction of the party which won the election?
They were basically ousted and they were pushed out.
There was no opposition from them?
They couldn't muster any opposition because they were iron fisted.
Okay. Uh, can you tell some of the good things that happened after Russian Revolution to Russia?
After Russian Revolution, Lenin wanted to establish a policy of peace, land, bread. So in peace, land, bread, he wanted to guarantee three things.
Hmm.
First is that if they don't like war, he'll end it.
Mhm.
So he said that Russia had to pull out of the war,
Mhm.
but he did not want to pull out when so much land was being lost, and the Germans were proposing a treaty to them, much like the Treaty of Versailles, where Russia would be humiliated and Russia had to give up a lot of land.
Mhm.
So Russia refused. So Lenin did not want to accept on those terms while they were losing. So then Trotsky proposed a plan that they would have no war and no peace. So they would not sign the treaty, but they would stop sending troops.
Mhm.
This was a big failure.
Mhm.
They stopped sending troops. So German troops advanced over Russia and they just took the land.
Oh.
They just captured the land and then they proposed even harsher treaties.
Mhm.
Even harsher treaties, and Russia was forced to accept.
Of course, then they had no other possibility. Mhm.
By now, one fourth of Russia was German.
Okay.
They had taken the industrial heartland of Russia,
Mhm.
and this part of Russia is still not part of Russia. It was briefly a part of Russia when USSR was
Even now?
formed. Even now,
What-
it is independent country.
Which part?
Lithuania, Poland, Latvia,
Okay.
those regions.
Uh-huh.
Then there is in the center there is
Belarusia?
hmm,
Belarus. Mhm.
Belarus and Austria-Hungary.
Mhm.
These parts.
But Austria-Hungary was never a part of Russia.
But the Austrian border and regions like Galicia, they were part of the Russian Empire.
Empire. Okay.
So
So the good thing, coming back to my
the
original
good thing was
question,
that
good thing was he wanted land, peace, and
bread.
bread. Okay, this is one thing. What were the other things? The good things that happened after Russian Revolution?
Other good things that they established they abolished the secret police.
Mm-hmm.
They abolished censorship
Mm-hmm.
and they gave free speech.
Free speech. Okay, this is one of the. Was it really? Was there any real free speech during communism?
During Lenin's period, there was actually free speech.
There was free speech.
There were four things: free speech. The secret police was abolished.
Mm-hmm.
Hangings were public hangings.
Capital
were
punishment was stopped.
abolished.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was the suppressing of dissidents.
Mm-hmm.
This was also abolished, and the famine.
Okay.
The famine was stopped for some while.
So
And when Stalin took power, these five things he brought back.
it was-
Censorship he brought back. There was secret police again, NKVD. There was the mass purging and capital punishment. There was the famine which started up again under his regime,
Okay.
and he started the war again.
Any other thing that you would like to mention? The good thing about post Russian Revolution that happened?
After the Russian Revolution, one other good thing was that they gave a sense of collectivism that was not easily found in Europe at that time.
Okay. So the people started working together for each other. Okay. Anything that bad happened because of Russian Revolution?
Yes, a lot of things.
A lot of things. Okay.
The economy was in ruin, the political system was suppressive, and the basic education was abolished. primary education
That was abolished. For what reason?
because they did not because they did not want these people to start questioning their governance.
Okay.
So they abolished education, even though it had never actually been that developed ever
Okay.
in Russia.
Okay.
Serfdom was also abolished. That was a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
But the new workers were exploited a lot, and they had to pay an near impossible amount to their owners.
Coming to the last part of this session today, uh, what what has the world learned from Russian Revolution?
That they should not have a revolution again like this.
Like this. Okay, there should not be a revolution. There should be a revolution, but not like this. Is that what you mean?
There should be a revolution, but not like this. This was a wrong example.
Okay.
So this was a worst example to have a revolution, because what they did was they lost a war, they lost territory,
Mm-hmm.
their economy was kaput now.
Mm-hmm.
They basically lacked in governance, because the party leader was having strokes,
Mm-hmm.
and Stalin was taking things into his own hands.
Okay. So bad leadership at the end. Okay. So this revolution ended, and you say
And bad timing to have a revolution.
bad timing to have. Okay. So we come to the session, end of the session. Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a good day. Bye bye.